Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online Series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're trying out a really fun team centered around Weakness Policy Giratina, built by 2017 World Champion Ryota Otsubo. Ryota really is one of my favorite team builders and always just comes up with really fun stuff and has continued to just, build a lot of really awesome teams in Sword and Shield. So please go check him out on Twitter and YouTube, link down in the description below. As always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team that we're using, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps in the description below, and thanks for watching. If you do enjoy, please share support by leaving a like in the video. I'd really appreciate it. In addition, I was actually getting some practice with this team before showcasing it, and I ran into someone named Ethan who had a really cool Ice Cube team on the ladder, and my whole recording setup crashed on like turn 3, and so I ended up disconnecting against them. So if that was you, I deeply apologize, and I hope we can have a rematch sometime in the future, because the Ice Cube team was really cool. So, what's the deal with Giratina, and why do we not see it very often? In general, it just has very underwhelming damage output. A lot of other restricted Pokemon don't need a weakness policy to do decent damage, and the thing about Giratina is that this thing just really feels like it does no damage without the policy setup, and so it feels a little bit one-dimensional in the sense that, like, it's just not, like, very strong offensively unless you have this weakness policy setup, right? And so that's part of the reason why people don't use it as much. When you think about something like Kyogre or Groudon, it's like they already do so much damage by themselves. They get access to crazy good spread type attacks. They have great abilities. And in addition to that, they can just already do consistent damage. With this Giratina, it's more like, okay, I need to Dynamax it and activate the weakness policy in the majority of games for it to really get going. But the nice thing is with the policy and everything, Giratina actually turns into a pretty potent threat. One of the main upsides of Giratina is that it has an incredible base HP stat, right? And so when Dynamax just takes such little damage, even from super effective attacks, right? And the other upside is that Ghost and Dragon is a pretty unique typing. Being an immune to Fake Out is really nice, and one thing I like about this team is like Mimikyu plus Giratina, because it just completely neutralizes like normal type attacks and fighting type attacks, for example. So the idea with Giratina is you're going to want to activate the policy, and you can do that either by, just leading Mimikyu Giratina, Shadow Sneak immediately, get policy going. Insane Giratina works here as well, as you have Brutal Swing on Incineroar. So the Brutal Swing allows you to get around things like redirection from Pokemon like Amoonguss and Indeedee, which would normally redirect Shadow Sneak away from the Giratina. So you have two main ways to activate the weakness policy here, and it's generally a slower paced team, so you're going to want to set up Trick Room often, and to do so you have a lot of different viable leads, right? A Fake Out user like Incin plus a Trick Room user like Mimikyu, Incin Mimikyu, Incin Calyrex, Togekiss Calyrex, Togekiss Mimikyu, Rillaboom Calyrex, Rillaboom Mimikyu, like those are all pretty viable leads that you can go with this team, right? And so one of the routes you can take is, okay, we set up Trick Room, we switch out Incin or Togekiss, or ideally let it get KO'd. Giratina comes in, self Shadow Sneak, activate, and then just sweep. The other nice thing about Giratina is that by using Max Phantasm, you lower your opponent's defenses, allowing all the physical attackers to deal more damage, and the majority of attackers on this team outside of Giratina, of course, are physical. Giratina also notably has Thunder, so that's going to help you against a lot of common restricteds, Yveltal, Kyogre, for example, and then also gives you a favorable matchup into some flying types like Charizard. And so Giratina does get access to a pretty diverse move pool, but I think Draco, Shadow Ball, Thunder is really consistent here across the board. And the rest of the team is relatively standard. Calyrex here running the Lumberry, so you can take a Will-O-Wisp or a Spore, more importantly, because Spore Amoonguss is a huge problem. If you go, set up Trick Room with this team, and then your opponent just brings out Amoonguss, they can put everything to sleep before you can even do anything. And so Calyrex here is a very nice counter, as with the Lumberry, you can eat up a Spore and then Glacial Lance. And you also have the Beery Togekiss, so kind of making a return, not a very common Pokemon these days, but very common in the beginning of Sword and Shield, so that offers you redirection support. And then Mimikyu here is Mentorb, so you don't have to worry about things like Taunt from Pokemon like Whimsicott, Tornadus, or even Incineroar to an extent. So overall, I think this team maximizes how good Giratina can be. At the end of the day, I just think Giratina is pretty underwhelming as a restricted Pokemon, unfortunately. But if you want to make Giratina work and you like really want to try out Giratina, then this is really the team for you. So, question of the day, inspired by us using Giratina, I want to know how you would buff some of the restricted Pokemon that don't see as much usage. Like which of them deserve a buff and how would you buff them? For me, for Giratina, I would just give it a better ability. Pressure is just so underwhelming, and the best restricteds all have insane abilities, right? It's but Calyrex gets 2 abilities, Kyogre and Groudon get weather-based abilities, Zacian gets a free attack boost, and then you have Giratina, which just has pressure. So I would change the ability to something that makes it a little bit stronger. But yeah, curious on your guys' opinions, and let's get started. Oh, it feels fitting that our first game with this new team, and we're up against the Yveltal team I just featured. Okay, so it's AV Yveltal. Man, how in the world do I beat GIRATINA with this? Or sorry, Yveltal with this? Because Yveltal's really good into both of my restricteds. I think the answer is just Calyrex Ice Rider. But... Sleep Powder I have to worry about from the Venusaur, as well as the max option. I think Mimikyu is probably my most consistent lead here. It's just playing the mind game of how to play against Venusaur on turn 1. Like, I'm thinking Mimikyu, Calyrex, GIRATINA. If they didn't have Yveltal, I would actually just go Mimikyu, GIRATINA. But there's an Yveltal. Rillaboom is relatively poor into this matchup. Togekiss is like a little bit interesting, mainly because of Dazzling Gleam. Like, one other approach is Calyrex and Togekiss, actually. Follow me, Trick Room. But I feel like Incin is just really valuable into this matchup, given the Groudon, the Venu. So, we'll see. This is definitely not an easy matchup. I don't, GIRATINA and Calyrex Ice Rider. Yveltal is probably the worst restricted that you can match up against, honestly. So, we'll see how we can handle the storm. It's going to be Yveltal Bronzong. Okay, so... Bronzong, we know, is Iron Defense Body Press stuff. It's slow. I, turn 1, can, like, Parting Shot into Yveltal. I'm, like, you wouldn't Dynamax Yveltal here, right? I would just Foul Play or Snarl. Maybe it goes Will-O-Wisp here, so that's actually something to consider as well. Like, I don't really care about Iron Defense Body Press when I have dual Ghosts in this matchup, right? So, like, I'm down to Parting Shot. I'm honestly thinking Parting Shot Trick Room, because then I can just Shadow Sneak Max Lightning Yveltal. And at that position, it's like, is Yveltal really going to Dynamax in front of us? Probably not. Bronzong switches, fine by me. Into Incin, cool. The only other thing is then, do I Max Lightning Yveltal, because it could obviously switch out into the Groudon, and might want to consider a Max Wormwind instead. They just go for Oblivion Wing, yep. Onto Incin, that's fine. Okay, so turn 1 works out decently well for us, I would argue. I guess I could go into Calyrex Ice Rider as well immediately. That's the other consideration. But I feel like it's a decent opportunity to just get GIRATINA out and then activate the policy on it. The only problem is that, like, now that they have Incin out, Incin can just outpace us and just Parting Shot me. It would be so satisfying to knock out Yveltal here, though, I have to say. I would stay in with Yveltal if I were my opponent, so, like, I'm kind of down to Dynamax, Max Lightning, and Self-Shadow Sneak here. The worst case is that they switch into Groudon, but then I can Will-O-Wisp it. Nah, they are switching. Okay, they go into Bronzong, I'll take it. Could be worse. Although it means then I could have, like, angled for a one-shot onto it with the Max Phantasm. Maybe I should have just gone for that, but at the same time, like, I don't... Yeah, I mean, I guess GIRATINA wasn't really at much risk of taking that much damage from my opponent's end. So, we're going to get Max GIRATINA out here. Calyrex Ice Rider, by the way, actually really solid into Yveltal Groudon in the late game. Also, look at GIRATINA's HP there. 510. That's crazy. Okay, so activate policy, man. Having, if I can go for a Phantasm here, that actually would have been so sick. Yes, there's Parting Shot. We're still at +1. You bring in Yveltal, you bring in Groudon. Both are pretty weak from a Max Wormwind on my end, so that's decently powerful. And then I can Will-O-Wisp the Bronzong slot. Bronzong's Iron Defense Body Press Trick Room, so like Iron Defense Body Press and Trick Room right now are all... Well, you could use Trick Room to reverse my Trick Room, I suppose. That's the one thing. The other thing to note is that I will set up the Electric Terrain this way, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, it's really not very impressive damage in a Bronzong, though, honestly. For base 140 +1 max move. A little bit underwhelming. Okay. Now what? Yveltal could Dynamax. Bronzong can Ally Switch. You can just max Darkness here. I don't mind going to Calyrex-S, I think. It is terrain boosted max lightning now. I honestly think Bronzong is going to click Ally Switch here because I don't think he has anything better to do. So I'm down to Lightning the Bronzong slot and Will-O-Wisp the Yveltal slot. Okay, they just go for Iron Defense, that's fine. Albeit a little bit frustrating, because then I could have launched the Lightning into Yveltal and just Will-O-Wisp Bronzong. Like, I don't think Iron Defense really accomplishes anything for them there, which is why I was thinking, okay, you really have to Ally Switch here, because you don't really have any better play to go for this turn. Bronzong hangs on with, like, 1 HP, but Shadow Sneak can at least finish it off. Foul play, not that much damage there. It's just the Ally Switch mind game this turn. And, like, I don't think a play rough would actually KO Bronzong either. So do I read into Ally Switch here? They didn't go for it last turn, but, like, you don't have anything else to go for other than Iron Defense, honestly. Okay, I'm down to Lightning here, and then Shadow Sneak into the Yveltal slot. Because if they get Ally Switched here, they get punished so heavily. Their late game of, okay, awesome. Their late game of Incin and Groudon is still really scary, but I at least have my Incin for an Intimidate, and Mimikyu still is Disguise, so I can Will-O-Wisp. Not getting tricked by Ally Switch this turn is huge, though. Okay, beautiful. Hopefully Lightning at +1 in terrain is a KO onto Yveltal. Not confident about that, but we'll see. I feel like it won't be. It was really close, though. Okay, can't complain. And they go for a Snarl rather than, like, an Oblivion Wing, so they won't really heal up, which is actually pretty critical here. Okay, so you would expect Groudon to come out now, right? My path to winning in this game is burning the Groudon. If Groudon is burnt, then it just doesn't really deal that much damage to me. Man, both Yveltal and Bronzong hung on with a sliver of HP in this game. So we expect Groudon to come out now, right? I guess you could just bring out Incineroar. But, yeah, it's Groudon. Okay. You can see, though, Giratina really needs the +2 boost. Otherwise, it can feel a little bit underwhelming. And because we got hit by that initial parting shot, you know, not amazing. So we know Yveltal here can heal up with Oblivion Wing. Honestly, here, like, I am down to just Shadow Ball into Yveltal to make sure it doesn't get to heal up, and then just Will-O-Wisp into Groudon. If I were my opponent, what would I do? You could Swords Dance with Groudon, you could Dynamax it, or you could just Protect and then sacrifice the Yveltal. But I really don't want the Yveltal to heal up right now. I don't want to give it the opportunity to Oblivion Wing and stay out on the field for longer. So this play, like, covers everything. Like, their best play is to just switch Yveltal out into Instant Protect Groudon here. Are they Dynamaxing? Okay, no, they're switching. One way I could have counteracted this is... do I really have a great counter play here? I could have switched out to my Incin, of course, but I can do that next turn as well. Okay, yeah, they go for the Protect. Yeah, that's fine. Next turn, they can't click Fake Out onto Mimikyu. I mean, one of the interesting questions is, do I even bother going for Trick Room? Or is it better to just go for, it's not bad damage from Will-O-Wisp. Yeah, do I even bother going for Trick Room right now? Because like I said, I think the path to winning is just burning the Groudon, because that's their clear Dynamax option. So I'm down to switch out into my Incineroar, get an Intimidate onto both of these, and then just Will-O-Wisp into Groudon here. We don't have any boosts on Giratina at this point anyway. The problem is that, like, I need to KO Incineroar, because if I KO Incineroar, then Calyrex Ice Rider just goes Glacial Lance, but I don't have a clear path to KOing Incineroar right now. The best way would have been to, like, get a +2 max Wormwind off onto it. So we're not in bad shape, but I've already committed my 3 turns to Dynamax, and my opponent hasn't spent a single turn of Dynamax yet, right? And that's the main problem. Okay, Groudon is going to Dynamax, which I'm okay with. It means no Swords Dance, at least. And so because of the Intimidate, that's already less scary. Yep. And then so Calyrex Ice Rider can deal decent damage into you, and then it actually also ignores your Berry, which is important here. There's Quake. Onto the Mimikyu slot. Nice, we take that pretty well after the Intimidate, perfect. If we get this burn, I'll feel very comfortable in the end game, I think, but if we don't, it's a problem. Ooh, they do outspeed us with Flare Blitz here. Does that KO? Oh, it does, okay. Maybe would I have wanted to consider a different switch then? I actually think it's still okay, because now we can bring out Calyrex. And I have Glacial Lance with this, as well as Trick Room. So this turn is interesting. If I were my opponent, I would pivot the Incineroar out into Yveltal to reset and Intimidate. You could also just Flare Blitz me right now is the problem. And then Max Quake onto Incin on my end. Special defense boosts. If I fake out here, then they get to recycle Incin back in. Like, the play I want to make is basically switch out my Incin into Giratina right now. And actually just click Glacial Lance. Like, I'm going to predict their Incin to switch out here. Okay. Do they switch? Okay, it's Max Guard on Groudon. Okay, they do switch, but not via an actual switch, it's via parting shot. So that was a little bit scary, because I did risk a double up onto Calyrex Ice Rider this turn. But now I end up getting the knockout onto the Yveltal with Glacial Lance. Yeah. And I should have known that the Incin was faster than Mimikyu, because I, like, just featured the team, but I'm, like, so used to playing with the faster Mimikyu, and the Mimikyu on this team has no speed investment at all, actually. Okay, so we'll KO Yveltal. Groudon actually wasted a Dynamax turn here, which is pretty nice as well. Important to note, though, that their Incineroar, of course, is faster than my Calyrex Ice Rider. So I have to be very careful about that. The other thing to worry about is that, like, Groudon, once Dynamax ends, can pressure with Swords Dance, and that's pretty problematic as well. So we're at -1 attack right now. We've got Draco Meteor potential here. Incin in the back still has Citrus Berry as well. I could switch either out into Incineroar right now for Intimidate. Like, I think I want to... Okay, pivot Giratina out into Incineroar here. And just protect this turn. Then I can fake out Trick Room, I think. Yeah, not hard switching Incin out was a smart play on their end, because it denied me... It brought me to -1 rather than just neutral, right? Because I was expecting them to hard switch, I get the KO, and then you bring me back to neutral. Okay. Although it meant I could have stayed in with Incin and just clicked fake out. Yeah, they're going to fake out into Calyrex. And Rockfall, okay? Who's Rockfall going into? The Incin slot. That's fine, activates my Berry, great. Now I have fake out this next turn, and you actually just got rid of your own Sun, meaning Flare Blitz from Incineroar now does less damage as well. Okay. This is going to be a close endgame, because, I mean, the Groudon is Swords Dance here, which is the main problem for me. Oh, it's Goggles on Incin. Right, I mean, we just used this team. You pressure with Swords Dance, you pressure with Flare Blitz or Parting Shot, but that doesn't scare me as much. I'm down to Fake Out here and click Trick Room. I basically don't want Groudon to get a single Swords Dance off right now. And I'm fine eating up a Flare Blitz on Calyrex Ice Rider. Okay, they actually Parting Shot. Yeah, I think that's smart. Oh, we got Trick Room up now. The Incin on the opposing end actually doesn't have a good Dark type attack either offensively. So here I'm down to Parting Shot into Groudon and just Glacial Lance. You could protect Groudon, but basically right now I do not want Groudon to get a free Swords Dance up. Because like once they get a Swords Dance up, they can just spam press displays, and that's really bad news for me. I also just realized this game has gone on for 16 minutes. Okay, that's a good protect on Groudon's end. That's a very good protect. Maybe I should have considered hard switching out the Incineroar then. Maybe. Are they going to taunt me here? I could definitely see taunt coming out right now. Okay, they just keep Parting Shot. I guess I'm okay with that for now. Because the thing is, I can switch out Calyrex Ice Rider, right? And negate the drops. I do think I should switch here. I need more offense out on the field right now. And the thing is, Incineroar is on a timer because it doesn't have any recovery. So it's mainly playing around the Groudon right now. The main mistake I made in this game was allowing my opponent to double up on Mimikyu, although I guess I didn't really have any like other super good options there that turn. Okay, so we're going to Parting Shot into the Groudon here. The other thing is, me switching Calyrex out that turn was seemingly obvious, but the thing is now a high horsepower will just finish off the Incineroar. So this is a big turn as to what Incineroar went for. Did you just Flare Blitz the Calyrex slot? Did you read into a switch? Okay, they blitz into Giratina, perfect. Okay. And they actually just go for Precipice Blades rather than a Swords Dance, which I think is a really big deal here. And we actually dodge it as well, but Calyrex would have survived that relatively comfortably anyway, I think. So that should put us in a very commanding spot now. There's 2 turns of Trick Room left. It's the last turn of Sandstorm, and they're at -3 attack with Groudon. So I'm okay just clicking a high horsepower now out into Incineroar. And how many turns of Trick Room do I have? 2? High horsepower and then switch out into Incin here feels okay. Like, they're going to be at -4 attack with Groudon, so... And even if, like in this position, all basically I needed to avoid last turn was Calyrex not getting one shot there and coming in relatively safely. And fortunately, they didn't blitz that slot. Okay, Groudon doesn't protect, but that's fine. High horsepower here should get the KO, right? Yep, perfect. Okay. Now you're at -4 with Groudon, so your Precipice Blades just do, like, no damage to me. And they finally go for Swords Dance. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I like that play, but to be honest, it doesn't save them in this position. Sandstorm subsides because I can just switch Incin back. This is a wild game, by the way. It's funny because I just used this team and I already like have forgotten some of the key stats about it. So we're at +1 attack. I can just Glacial Lance here and then switch out into Giratina. Because if you're my opponent, you have to protect this turn, basically, right? But if you protect, then I can just pivot Incin back in for another Intimidate here. So that's why I was thinking Swords Dance earlier would have been a little bit stronger, because Precipice Blades wasn't really dealing that much damage, but I think my opponent was just angling for a knockout onto the Incineroar, which is understandable. Okay. Trick Room expires. I mean, their Wing Con is Rock Slide at this point, but they're at -2 attack anyway. So we'll go for another Trick Room here, and then switch back out into Incin. We had to play this game really patiently because Giratina was not able to just pick up one-hit knockouts. I think theoretically we could also win this game off timer, but I don't think I need it. Like, I don't even think Crit Press with Blades KOs Calyrex here. And they actually just go for Rock Slide and unfortunately miss Calyrex. I mean, even if they got the flinch there, like next turn I would just fake out Trick Room into Flare Blitz Glacial Lance, and so I had a pretty locked up endgame here, because a crit Rock Slide doesn't KO Calyrex from this range, so yeah. But I definitely got pretty lucky here, right, where they ended up missing multiple attacks onto Calyrex. But I don't think Rock Slide, like, even if they connected with Rock Slide and Precipice Blades, we still would have been okay. But, of course, once again, the mental factor of your opponent, like, missing attacks, like, that can tilt them really heavily as well. So, that was a long, drawn-out game. But, you know, Giratina did what I needed to, which was knock out Bronzong and Yveltal. And the upside of getting a quick Pokemon advantage like that was that I was able to, you know, pivot Incin out and in and out and in, and then just keep decreasing the Groudon's attack. I don't think... I mean, Rillaboom is okay. I don't know. It's just so weak in a Bronzong Yveltal Incin, so I can't justify bringing it. And to be honest, I don't think Togekiss would have contributed very much either. What I am happy about this game is that Yveltal did not actually do very much for them, because I thought Yveltal was going to be, like, one of the primary concerns here, because, like, my damage output into it is, like, somewhat subpar against Dynamax Yveltal when you're AV, but I think the leads helped because getting a parting shot into them immediately was good. So, yeah. I wish we could have played that without some of the misses there, but I think we were in a position where even if they had connected with Rock Slide and Precipice Blades, we still would have been fine, honestly, because like Groudon just had such little damage output in that end game. So yeah, definitely an exciting way to get things started with this team, so let's look for another. Next match here, we're actually up against Ringia Sun, so, you know, the most... scary. I don't know if I guess I call it the scariest team in the format, but just one of the strongest teams still. And, you know, it's literally won 4 major tournaments, US regionals, Liverpool regionals, regionals in Asia, and then the European International Championships, right? But the thing about this team is that, like, it is really good, but it's often the player that really, like, showcases how good it can be. So rather than, like, the team carrying the player... I guess it's not the player carrying the team either, but like basically, like I think this team, if it can be really difficult to use, right? And so if you look at European Internats, for example, like it didn't actually have that many top placings, but it managed to win the event because the player who piloted, Eric Rios, is just absolutely phenomenal. How do I want to approach this? I mean, Giratina is actually pretty solid against pretty much everything. Instant Mimikyu is always an okay lead. I'm also intrigued by just like Giratina, Mimikyu, Instant Calyrex. I don't know. I think Instant and Mimikyu also works here, but like, what if I just activate the policy on Giratina? Like, let's say they lead Charizard Groudon, and I go Mimikyu Giratina. I could just Shadow Sneak Max Lightning Charizard turn 1. And then it's like if the Charizard maxes and G-Max Wildfires, it's not a bad trade because then you're wildfiring, you know, Mimikyu or Incin. Or sorry, Mimikyu or Giratina. They're going to go with Incin and Charizard, which I'm also okay with. Turn 1 is already a pretty big question because I can obviously go for Shadow Sneak, but the question here is, do I want to max Wormwind into Incineroar or do I want to max Lightning into Charizard? Wormwind into Incineroar is generally a little bit safer, although they could actually pivot that out into Zacian. I think Charizard's in a pretty bad spot here because the best play you can go for is either Airstream on a Giratina or Wildfire out into Mimikyu. And we expect Groudon plus Zacian in the back. So, like, I'm down to go for the sneak into the policy activation immediately. It's just here, do I want a Lightning Charizard, do I want a Wormwind Charizard, or do I want a Wormwind Incineroar? I'm down for a Wormwind onto Incineroar because my opponent presumably doesn't know my moveset here. If they hard switch Incin out into... Oh, they actually are just maxing Charizard. Okay. I guess that's okay, although I could have just one-shot it here with Max Lightning. In the grand scheme of things, though, I think it's okay, unless I don't one-shot Incineroar on turn 1, and that's my fear. To be honest, like, Giratina's damage output is just pretty subpar, so I don't even know if a +2 special Max Wormwind gets it. We'll see. I was just a little bit nervous about like Charizard protecting or switching out into Groudon turn 1 and then instant parting shotting into Giratina. And I felt like that was more likely than my opponent switching Incineroar out into Zacian, right? I've got Calyrex in the back. I've got Incin in the back. And the other thing is then it's like, maybe should I just set up Trick Room to start? Either way, though, we'll get the sneak into the policy. Okay. Yeah, they just Wildfire. So Wildfire this turn is okay. The problem is now I have to deal with it next turn. But next turn I can just pivot out Mimikyu out into Incin. If we one-shot the Incin here, we're honestly not in bad shape at all. I'm just nervous about Incin getting a parting shot off here. Okay, that does get the one-hit KO. Nice, 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 nice. Okay, I'll take it. That's one of the upsides of the Mimikyu Giratina lead, by the way. Dual Ghosts mean like you can't click Fake Out onto either slot, so it puts Incin in like a slightly awkward position. Now you probably go out into Zacian, and then you can pressure Behemoth Blade and max Airstream onto Giratina. They've got Groudon in the back. I can max Lightning here. Or just max Wormwind to decrease Zacian's attack, but Lightning's probably better. I mean, how could I play turn 1 better? It was just to KO the Charizard. It would have been interesting to angle for Trick Room in this game, but the thing is, I need to KO Incineroar before I can feel comfortable with Trick Room. They actually bring out Groudon. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that makes sense. I guess, like, you could Airstream into Precipice Blades now. If I get a Trick Room up from this angle, I feel like I would win. Like, I'm down to switch out into Incineroar here, and then just max Lightning into Charizard. Because I think they're probably not expecting to get one shot on Charizard right now. I guess the problem then, though, is I'm playing against Groudon and Charizard. Like, maybe it was worth considering just going for Trick Room here with Mimikyu. Because I think my opponent's play is maybe Airstream into Giratina and Precipice Blades. But as we saw from the last game, like, Intimidate provides so much value into Groudon. Yep, so there's Airstream. Okay, into the Mimikyu slot. I'll take that. It does mean, though, that I don't have Incin for the endgame against Zacian, and that's not ideal. And I'm assuming they're Precipice Blading here. If they don't Precipice Blades, or they miss onto Incin, it's really bad for them. But, yeah. The upside is I still have Giratina healthy, but the downside is I'm going to get the KO, and now they get Zacian in for free. I wonder if Wormwind would have been enough there, but I just didn't want to take that bet. And, like, Charizard, if it gets one more max move, is just way too powerful against me right now. I think this next turn essentially boils down to, can I make the right protect call? They're going to bring out Zacian, right? Man, it might have been worthwhile to actually just sacrifice Calyrex Rider there, because then I would have had Incin for Fake Out, and then I could Fake Out Zacian Wormwind. But then I guess, like, late game damage output is still pretty subpar. So basically, if I bring out Mimikyu, I have to worry about Precipice Blades, Behemoth Blade. Same with Calyrex Rider. They could have Heavy Slam or a Ghost type attack. Okay, I'm gonna bring out Calyrex. Basically, this turn, Zacian can only target one slot, right? So it's a question of, do you Behemoth Blade Giratina or Calyrex Rider? Because if I protect / max guard correctly on the right one, on whoever Zacian is targeting, and then get the attack off with the other, I think I am in a pretty favorable spot. If I were my opponent, I would probably Behemoth Blade Calyrex to deny Trick Room. So, like, I want to protect here, honestly. And Phantasm into Zacian. I guess that's the other question, is +2 Phantasm one-shot. If we get this and one-shot Zacian, I think we win the game, because then it's a -1 Groudon against Calyrex plus Mimikyu. Oh, actually, plus Giratina as well. The other play here is to max guard Trick Room. So, I don't know. We'll see. I would have tried to KO Calyrex Ice Rider here with Zacian, but looks like they're going to Blade Giratina. Okay. I assume that KO's from the range that I'm at, but we'll see. Ooh, we actually hang on. But Blades will just KO us unless they miss. Giratina, say ain't so. Oh, but we don't get the knockout there. Giratina's cool, but damage output can be a little bit underwhelming sometimes. Anyway, I called the turn incorrectly anyway, right? Like I said, it basically came down... Even if I had max guarded there and Trick Roomed, would I have won? Yeah, we would have been in a really good spot, because then I can Shadow Ball plus Glacial Lance. And if Trick Room goes up, then we're just an amazing spot. Oh, actually, wait, hold on. But the thing is, because now I just get Mimikyu in for free, and I have a defense drop. So maybe we get bailed out by that miss, honestly. I'm going to Trick Room here and Shadow Sneak into Zacian. Mimikyu doesn't have any attack investment, though, which is the problem. How could I play this game better, then? Because it's like, in the end, if I were to win, it's only because they missed Precipice Blaze on Giratina. I guess it was to just try to KO Charizard on turn 1 with Max Lightning. Because I think players generally aren't going to expect Max Lightning from Giratina. Okay. Zacian protects. That's fine. As long as I don't get flinched by Rock Slide. But honestly, like, if I get flinched here, it's not something I can really complain about. It's actually just Heat Crash, okay. Does that KO me? Yeah, I was gonna say, like, Heat Crash is pretty underwhelming into a lot of restricted mons because of how heavy they are. Ooh, with Wildfire, though... I mean, Mimikyu's not fainting. Okay. This is the synergy between Giratina and Calyrex, by the way, like dropping your opponent's defenses. So I'm down to Glacial Lance here. I think that should just KO Zacian. And I'm down to just Will-O-Wisp into the Groudon here, because I don't know if Sneak or Play Rough gets the knockout here. Okay, so we get Glacial Lance off. Even if they had another physical fire type attack there, by the way, it wouldn't have really changed very much. And oh, that's actually just a double KO. Okay, so kind of underestimated the defense drop onto the Groudon. It was a crit on Zacian, but I don't think that one really matters. This one, though, I kind of got away with because Giratina was clutched and dodged the Precipice Blades. One of the downsides of just using Groudon in this format is like you're so reliant on Precipice Blades, and so it's like when I use Groudon Silgaleo at regionals, it was so stressful because it's like it's so many positions where it's like, okay, I just need to hit the Precipice Blades and I win. And for the most part, I hit the Precipice Blades, but there are a couple of games where like a miss essentially just cost me the game, right? But that's the thing about Groudon. It's so strong that that trade-off is basically still worth it. But yeah, Giratina definitely was clutch here, dodging it, but you never want to win off a miss. And so then the question is, okay, how could I play better? And the answer is just getting the knockout onto Charizard on turn 1, because then it forces my opponent to bring out Groudon or Zacian out immediately. And then I get more value of an Incineroar. Incineroar is so important in this matchup, and I just lost it essentially for nothing on turn 2 of the game. And I didn't really have a great way around it. The other thing I could have done was just sacrifice Mimikyu in that position. And I think in retrospect, that may have been the better play. I just wanted the Intimidate onto Groudon, but I don't think Airstream plus regular Precipice Blaze would have KO'd Giratina anyway. So I think in retrospect, it's better to sack the Mimikyu there, KO the Charizard, because then the endgame is Incin plus Giratina with Calyrex Ice Rider in the back. It's still pretty scary there, but then I at least have a full HP Incin that can pressure Fake Out. And then we can go from there. But I still don't see like a really easy path to victory there. So it's tough. And like that team is one of the strongest teams in the format for a reason, right? It's just exceptionally powerful. And my opponent leaned more towards offense than going passively with like Giratina or Gastrodon here, which I think is the correct approach as well. So we'll look for one final game here. Okay. Charizard and Calyrex Zacian for this one. Theoretically, Trick Room should be really good here, but I expect them to have like Trick Room on Whimsicott, Taunt on Whimsicott, or Imprison Trick Room on Calyrex Shadow Rider. So it won't actually be that easy to get Trick Room up. If I were them, which 4 would I go with? Who would I Dynamax here? Because, like, Charizard and Calyrex are their main max options. I'm, like, thinking about Mimikyu Giratina again. It wasn't amazing in that last one, though, and, like, my opponent's team is similar in terms of just how much offense they have. I don't think it's really the right game for Togekiss or Rillaboom, though, so I think it's the top 4, but then the question is always what order I want to go in. I think leading Calyrex Ice is really bad here because, like, their main offensive threats are all really good into it. And if I go Incin Mimikyu, I'm so weak to Imprison. Maybe it's still worthwhile to go with here, though, because I do have the Mentorb, so I actually don't have to care about Taunt. Okay, I'm still gonna go for it. This forces my opponent to, like, make the good play on turn 1. And I don't know their sets here either. It's just normally, against the comp that I'm going up against, like, I expect them to have Trick Room answers. The thing is that, like, Giratina doesn't even guarantee one-shots onto Zacian, as we just saw in the last game. If I could guarantee that one-hit KO, then I'd feel a little bit more comfortable bringing it. They're gonna go with Incin and Calyrex. Okay. I don't think this is too bad. I guess they're probably just gonna fake out my Incin on turn 1, right? I could Shadow Sneak. I mean, it's a -1 Shadow Sneak in a Calyrex, so it's like, how powerful is that really gonna be? But the thing is, if we eliminate Calyrex, like, does Calyrex just Dynamax here? One crazy play, by the way, is actually Dynamaxing Incin to Darkness and Shadow Sneak. It's actually somewhat interesting to me. If you're my opponent, you would fake out Incin. The question I have is, like, do you have Imprisoned Trick Room? Because I almost want to just Shadow Sneak here onto the Calyrex. Okay, I'm down to Parting Shot and Shadow Sneak. I honestly thought really heavily about Dynamaxing Incin here, because it would have just been a KO onto Calyrex, but I just don't know if I love Dynamaxing Incin like that. Sneak is not a 2-hit KO. Yep, they're in prison. Okay, cool. That's big, so I don't fall into that trap at least. Now what? You're probably in prison, Trick Room, Astral Barrage, Protect, or a Psychic type attack. It's definitely the first 3. Unfortunately, I can't scout for whether or not they're in Prison Protect right now. But the fact that we got that damage to start off into Calyrex, I think is really good. So now what do I want to do? Their Incineroar might angle for a Parting Shot. I am down to actually Parting Shot their Incineroar, because I think that's going to want to switch out, and then just Shadow Sneak Calyrex here. Okay, they reveal Protect. Oh, I see what they're going for. They're going to break Mimikyu's Disguise, which is a smart play, but... No, they actually Parting Shot. Oh, wow, okay. That's amazing. I was thinking you would use Instant to break Mimikyu's Disguise, so then you can just go for a strong attack the next turn. But this is where us having a slower Incineroar is very advantageous, because they have to switch out first. Then I can Parting Shot whatever's coming in, which is going to be the Zacian, right? So, okay. Would have been very nice if I Will-O-Wisp that slot, but nah. So it's Imprison, Trick Room, Astral Barrage, and Protect. Like, I could just go into Giratina now, right? The alternative is Zacian. Or sorry, Calyrex. I wish I had Zacian. I think it's got to be Giratina here. So then their Calyrex maybe switches out into Incineroar, or they just click Astral Barrage into Behemoth Blade right now. Do you go for Astral and Behemoth Blade here? Why don't I just... Oh, I can't Protect. That's why. Right. Okay, I think I want to Dynamax here. Phantasm. I went for Will-O-Wisp, but I don't know. Like, okay, they switched Calyrex out. Wow, that's really good in my opinion. Because even if you Behemoth Blade Giratina, like, that's not that bad. It's a lot of damage, sure, but if it means getting a burn on Zacian, I'll take it. The main question now is, what is my opponent going to Dynamax? And I think it's pointing to late game Charizard, which actually scares me a lot. The other play I could have gone for here was sneak into Phantasm on Zacian. In my head, I was like, oh, it's not going to KO, so what's the point? But then the thing is, with the defense drop, a Shadow Sneak will finish it off most likely. Oh my god. Giratina has so much good RNG today. Although, honestly, I would have not minded Play Rough connecting there. Yes, it would have done a lot of damage, but we would have one-shot Zacian because it would have activated Weakness Policy. But in the grand scheme of things, obviously, I don't mind it missing. This Giratina has, like, the best RNG I've had in a while. But I don't want to win off good luck, right? I want to win off just playing well. And now the game is so heavily skewed in my favor, honestly. I am actually going to just go for a Shadow Sneak and Wormwind now. I actually think I wouldn't say it's impossible for my opponent to come back, but this makes the game so hard for them. That is the downside of clicking Play Rough over Behemoth Blade, though, right? Behemoth Blade is, like, consistent damage there, but it makes sense. Play Rough, you do super effective damage, and then it also covers for me switching back out into Incineroar. So, unfortunate for them there that they just get punished. Oh, this is sick. That is cool. Okay. That is very cool. I didn't think about the possibility of Dynamax Incin here, but I wouldn't be surprised if this were Weakness Policy Incineroar. I've seen that a decent amount on these team compositions. I feel like this is the best RNG I've had in a very long time in a Road to Ranked episode. Like, each game we had some very tilting RNG. Like, the first game I didn't think it really mattered, but once again you have to consider the mental factor. And then the second game, obviously, I would have just lost if Press was like hit the Giratina there. Oh, they actually Blade Mimikyu here as well. Okay. It makes sense, because, like, you want to cover Mimikyu. I mean, you're not doing that much damage to Giratina in this position anyway, but they still aren't with Max Incin, because I'm just going to get a +2 Wormwind off here. Jeez. It's pretty solid damage. The thing about Giratina is, unfortunately, even with Weakness Policy, this Pokemon just doesn't do that much damage, but it has an incredible HP stat, right? And so we can leverage that to our advantage. Yeah, that just did no damage at all, honestly. Cool. So now I can pivot out Mimikyu. I mean, because Mimikyu Shadow Sneak's just going to hard win against Calyrex Shadow Rider. I guess I could actually look to Trick Room here, but you're at -1 attack, -1 defense, +1 attack, +2 special attack, -1 attack, -1 defense. Like, here, I'm down to Phantasm just to guarantee the KO onto Zacian and then switch out into Incineroar. You know, it's kind of funny because it's like Calyrex Shadow Rider is really scary in this matchup, but then I also have 3 things that can, like, bring Calyrex down to its Focus Sash. I really wish that Play Rough hit, though. Like, I would love to play this game with that difference maker, because I think if the Play Rough hit, then the Max Darkness may have actually KO'd, and yeah, they Max Guard here. I went for Phantasm onto Zacian because, truthfully, like, Instants Max Darknesses don't do very much damage here anyway, and the Dynamax Instant is kind of like a last-ditch effort for them at this point in the game, right? That did, like, 10 damage total. And so it's like, I don't really care about the Incineroar because it's not like you're actually dealing a huge amount of damage. With Calyrex Shadow Rider, we already know it's Imprison, Trick Room, Protect, and so Astral Barrage has got to be the 4th, meaning there's no potential way to activate, like, a Weakness Policy on Incineroar. That's, like, the one thing to mainly watch out for when you're going up against Dynamax Incin. Okay, so they bring their Calyrex back out. Yep. With this, I think we're good to just... what do I want to do here? I do have to consider the special defense drop, right? Mimikyu's just waiting to come in and click Shadow Sneak, though. So I think here it's fine to just protect and Parting Shot. Because basically, then I get Mimikyu in for free, and then Shadow Sneak should KO Calyrex without... Yeah, and they protect here as well. Shadow Sneak should just KO Calyrex. It's a shame, though, because I think as soon as the play rough missed in this game... Well, I guess, like, I didn't think they needed to Dynamax Instant in that position, but they may have just not had a better max option in this game, honestly. So the reason I went for Parting Shot into Instant here is because they just max guarded, right? So it's like, they're not going to go for a second max guard there. And Calyrex in this position, the only thing it really threatens me with is Astral Barrage onto Giratina, right? But do I really care about Astral Barrage if I'm protecting? No. So then it's like your other moves are Imprison, Trick Room, and Protect, and I don't really care about you going for any of the others. By going for Parting Shot into Instant, it guarantees me the safe switching into Mimikyu right now. It's pretty crazy, by the way. If you look at the amount of damage we've taken so far, it's basically like 10% spread across the entire team, which I would not expect. So now we can just Shadow Sneak the Calyrex. I guess the only fear is if that actually doesn't KO. It should, though. The first Shadow Sneak did just under 50%, and that was without a defense boost. Or sorry, an attack drop. They have no switching into Draco Meteor, so I think we can just Draco here and Shadow Sneak. I guess the scary thing here is if Sneak misses out on the KO on Calyrex. Okay, Instant switches out. That's not surprising. And so their last one was Charizard. Yeah, I was thinking a late game Charizard max would have been stronger for them. There's Shadow Sneak. Okay. I honestly, like, the crazy thing here is, like, we're probably going to get a 4-0 victory in the end, but if Shadow Sneak does not get the KO on Calyrex there, Astral Barrage just picks up a double KO, and I actually think I just lose the game from that angle. But I was fairly confident Sneak would KO because the first one did just under 50%, and that was with an Intimidate on top. But I was like, is it 40%? You know, then do we get the KO? But in this game, I think the play rough miss was obviously everything. And I do want to do the damage calc afterwards, because basically I'm curious if play rough plus max darkness would have KO'd Giratina. My suspicion is yes. The thing to consider is that, though, on that turn, they switched an instance, then Phantasm would have one-shot the Zacian, right? Yeah, I don't know. It's tricky still. Anyway, I can just stay it in Draco, honestly, and play rough. Obviously, Instinct can't pull off a comeback here. So, yeah, I mean, Giratina had the best RNG I've had in a while. Like, it was so clutch for us here today. I think it really just wanted to prove its worth. But I also think it's a little bit telling. Like, it wasn't the most impressive Pokemon in the sense that it's not like we just dominated with it, right? But that's the reality of using a restricted like Giratina. I would not expect this Pokemon to have good tournament finishes overall. And it feels a little bit underwhelming that even after a policy boost, like, I can't one-shot Zacian guaranteed, right? And so it's really fun, right? And I think that this team maximizes the value of it and how you can take a relatively niche restricted and make it better. But at the end of the day, like, would I bring this to a tournament? Or would I, like, you know, bring this to something that I was, like, super tryharding for? Probably not, just because I think it's a little bit less consistent. But that doesn't mean it's not a good team by any means, right? It's just like you have to play more meticulously in certain matchups, and of course we had a lot of good RNG in today's episode as well. So I am quickly curious about the Zacian damage calc, so let's just quickly pull that up. So looking at the damage calc there, as you can see, Behemoth Blade actually does do a little bit more damage because, you know, it's higher base power. And so against Dynamax Giratina here, play rough actually, even from admin max attack, does 52 to 62%, which is actually a little bit less than I expected. And so I think Giratina actually could have taken that plus the max darkness essentially, which is pretty impressive, honestly. But of course, like, if, you know, they connect on the play rough and we KO Zacian, then maybe Charizard just comes out, Dynamaxes and max Airstreams me. That turn in itself is pretty interesting because, as you can see, Behemoth Blade does do a little bit more damage. But the upside of going for play rough is if I don't Dynamax the Giratina, then you actually just one-shot me. And then also play rough does a little bit more damage into the Incineroar switch out. So it's basically a 10% trade-off in accuracy versus slightly less damage, but also covers for an instant switch out and one-shots a Dynamax Giratina in that position, or non-Dynamax Giratina in that position. So I think, you know, it is a call that makes sense, and it's not like Behemoth Blade is always just objectively the better play there, but unfortunate for my opponent that they did get the miss. So yeah, I'll take my blessings where we can get them, but at the end of the day, you know, it's not as exciting winning from good fortune rather than just outplaying and making good plays, right? So I wish we could have seen how games 2 and 3 in particular would have played out, because I think the RNG, I mean, in the second game, it was like if that Prisma's Blade hits, we just automatically lose. In this one, the game state was still early enough where I think even if play rough had connected, we still had plenty of opportunities to win the game. The main problem is a late game Dynamax Charizard, which I was pretty worried about, because then they would have distributed enough damage where I'm not sure I can actually handle Charizard in the late game. So that would be my main question. And then in the first game, like, yeah, we managed to get Groudon to a point where it really couldn't do very much damage anyway. But you know what? I'm glad that we could show off like Giratina can be viable in this format. And so thank you to Ryota as always for the team. Check them out in the description below. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.